Hey guys, welcome back to Image of the Invisible. And guess what? I am back. It's been like, gosh, I was trying to count up during the intro. I think 4 episodes that I haven't been here. So I was out of town. I was sick. I had a thing at church on that Sunday night that we should have been recording. And then I can't remember what the other one was. Oh, the gun show. I was at the gun show with
Yeah.
Guys, check out fattack.com for all your tactical needs. Just throwing that out there. But guys, I am back and it's cool. Phil, we haven't really caught up. We talked a little bit beforehand, but guys, I'm so happy to be back. And you probably thought Jason just left. He's gone. I'm not gone. I wouldn't do that. And guys, I am here. How's it going, Phil?
Good, man. Good to have you back. It's awesome to actually have you back on an episode again, back together, back in the saddle. So I'm excited to get into all the things we're going to get into. But prior to the show starting, you said you had a story to tell about a hotel that you stayed in recently. So I figured we start there.
It was so crazy. So I was on a work trip last week in Pennsylvania, and they booked this hotel, or the guy I was with. He booked a hotel for us. He's really into like old, like historic hotels and buildings, and so he booked this hotel, which is it's not really open except like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But you can stay there. At that time it's more like an Airbnb. Like you got a code, you go up to the door, you put the code in, you go in, then you have another code to enter your room. And I told him, I was like, man, this place is haunted. It was built in like 1860 something. And I was like, man, I just, just gives me the vibes. And he was like, I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any of that stuff. So I was like, dude, all right. So I went, got settled in our rooms and I started doing research. And the first thing I found was they do ghost tours, or they did a ghost tour at the hotel. And I thought that was a little weird, to say the least. And then I was like, okay, so we went to bed, woke up the next day, and I said, so how'd you sleep? Did the ghost bother you? And he's like, man, they were stomping in my room all night, and my bed was shook. And he said he heard like moaning. I was like, you're kidding me, right? He's like, no, I'm not. That really happened. And I was like, I slept like a baby. Nothing in my room. And so fast forward to the next night, because we stayed there 2 nights. And I was like, so, the next morning I was like, so, any ghosts messed with you last night? He's like, yeah, it was so weird. I had the stomping. It was not as bad, but there was a ball of light that floated through my room and then went towards your room. And I was like, man, I slept so good. It's like the best I've ever slept in a hotel. And I was talking to church this morning with Tony about this. And he was, or I was Tony and Jack was like, dude, it's, you're protected. It's the Holy Spirit. You don't, that's why they're not messing with you. They're messing with him. So I was like, maybe that could be it. But yeah, so it definitely was something weird going on in there. But I slept right through it and I slept really good. So I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah, that definitely is weird. But yeah, I think that sounds like you were protected by the Holy Spirit, at least to me.
Yeah.
Especially since you slept so well. You know what I mean? It was one thing. It would be one thing if it was the opposite, but it was like, like you said, the best you've ever slept in any hotel. So
usually hotels toss and turn and don't really get much sleep.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Sleep, but just not, sleep like you're at home.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I slept really good. It's so strange, man.
Yeah,
and I was like, man, I wanted to hear something, because I've never like experienced anything like that in a hotel. I mean, just like something above me or something walking, just because we were the only people in the hotel. Just something like that, just to hear something, that would have been cool. But
yeah, interesting. Yeah, it makes you wonder what's going on there for sure.
It's okay. I mean, it's all good. I'm kind of glad I didn't experience anything, because last time we experienced stuff, it did not go so well for us.
Yeah. Consider it a blessing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anyways, how have you been?
Good, good. Got back from my vacation, which seems like forever
Oh
ago.
yeah. I mean, I think I talked to you after the vacation. We
Yeah, I think a
we had a
little bit.
show and then yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, so that was incredible. Obviously meeting Tommy and all that kind of stuff. We were just talking about that before the show because you had Tommy on AFK discussions recently, or you were on his show. I think both.
Both, yeah.
Both, yeah. So yeah, go check out those episodes for sure because Tommy's the best. So just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, as far as what's been going on with me, yeah, just been plugging away at work. Oh, yesterday we had a missions. We do little fundraisers for missions throughout the year, and so one of them was last night, and it was our karaoke for missions party at church. So we raised a good amount of money for missions, which is always great. So we did that last night, so that was cool. Yeah, other than that, just plugging away at work and just waiting for the next vacation, to be honest with you. Because once you get back from vacation after you work a little bit, you're like, all right, I want to get back. I want to get out
Yeah.
of here.
Yeah, definitely. So
Dude, that first day back's the worst.
I have a 3-day weekend coming up with Labor Day. So
Oh yeah, me too. One thing I will say, I've been like since my trip, I've been on a real sugar soda kick. So I buy these little like Pepsi things that have the real sugar in them instead of the high fructose corn syrup and stuff
Yeah.
like that, or like Mexican Cokes, the ones in the
Oh,
glass
yeah.
bottles. They are made with real cane sugar, and they're delicious. They're so much better
Yeah.
than
So in Europe and in the UK, they don't have corn syrup, right?
No,
Yeah,
not at all. It's
they-
just real sugar and
yeah.
stuff. So I remember when I was getting Cokes and Pepsis over there, they just tasted so great, and so I was like, man, I miss this so much. So when I got back, I was like, I need this back in my life. So yeah, it's been so that's been fun, just drinking real soda again.
I've just been drinking energy drinks. So I've been trying different ones. So I'm having a Celsius tonight.
Oh yeah, yep.
Apparently they're more
like pre-workout.
Yeah, well, they have more vitamins and stuff than just like only like caffeine. So yeah. Like
I used to drink those right before I worked out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because they have like thermogenic ones or whatever.
Yeah, and they have like a fat burner. This one's a fat burner. It accelerates metabolism and all that. So
yep, that's exactly what I used to do before working out and stuff. Yeah, to like help burn fat and stuff while working out.
Also, I don't know if I told you this, dude. So I've been trying to lose weight. I don't know if I talked to you since then I went to the doctor, but
I don't think so.
Since December was the last time I was at the doctor, so I was in my checkup, and I've lost 30 pounds since
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Have you been doing anything different, or is you just happen to lose 30 pounds?
Just counting calories and stuff, just watching what I eat. So
yeah, that'll definitely do it.
Yeah,
well, that's good. That's cool.
Because I lost a bunch of weight, and then when I lost my job, or got laid off, I just started binge eating. So so I'm trying to get back into it now, of like more healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you lose work like that, like you're just not as active as you normally are when you're working, even no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
Because that happened to a buddy of mine when he's just getting back to work tomorrow, actually. But he's been out of work for a little while, and so he gained some pounds after losing his job too. So I think it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
You just
it was the heaviest I've ever weighed in my life.
Oh, that's the worst.
In December, yeah. So
yeah, that's the worst. I know. I'm trying to lose like 10 pounds myself, because I'm currently the heaviest I've ever been. Not that that's like really heavy, but for me that's heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah, just trying to lose weight all around over here.
Yeah, man.
The Losing Weight Podcast. We'll have to rebrand to like rebrand again to a weight loss podcast.
Yeah. Image of the invisible calories.
Yeah, that's right. Too funny. That's awesome. All right, but anyway, I did see this article, and I happened to see it while scrolling Facebook. And essentially, this is what the article says. Oldest written reference to Moses may be revealed in ancient Egyptian desert inscriptions, a researcher says. So this guy, his name is Michael S. Barron, doing a lot of research over in Egypt. The article says a researcher may have uncovered the oldest written references to Moses, dating back 3,800 years. And what I think is interesting is that these etchings were etched before the earliest parts of the Bible were even written, between the 10th and 7th centuries BC.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which I think is super remarkable. Not only that they found an inscription, but like that it predates the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because Moses, as a lot of, I don't know, maybe people do or do not know, a lot of the Old Testament, especially Genesis. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but I'm pretty sure a lot of that was written by Moses.
Yeah, Moses.
Yeah.
But I think they were all handed down like
oral stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So these inscriptions date back between 800 and 1600 BC is when they were written.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. The two inscriptions among many at the site were first discovered in the early 1900s, but they are now being reanalyzed by an American-Israeli epigraphist. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Named Michael S. Barron. The expert, who also a graduate student at Ariel University, spoke with Fox News Digital about the discovery. The inscriptions read two words that I'm not even going to try to pronounce, but the phrases mean "this is from Moses" and "a declaration of Moses," respectively. So those are like the two inscriptions that mention Moses specifically.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is very cool. And this area where it was found is called the Sarabit El Kadim site. Once housed a Tibet temple to Balat. So it was like a temple for like a pagan god.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I think is interesting, along with the Moses inscriptions, there was some other inscriptions on there that said they were kind of like talking bad about the cult. So written in by Israelis, but Hebrew people, rebuking and warning to its followers. They had in turn to include terms as BS, whatever. It's like a phrase or something that which means for shame or this is shameful, and Nimash, which means let us leave or remove ourselves. So yeah, I just thought it was very, very interesting that this guy kind of was like retranslating some inscriptions and found two references to Moses that date back that far back.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one thing I don't know, like I don't want to misquote, but I think I know in the Jewish religion, I don't know about like how far back it goes, but I would think it goes back all the way back. But like if you are I think in like Hebrew school or whatever, if you're a Jew, then you're required to, I think, memorize the is it Tanakh, the first 10?
Yeah, the Old Testament.
The first 10, yeah. I think you have to memorize that, which I don't know if that tradition dates back all the way where, it was handed down from generation to generation, like, and they were, had to memorize it, which would make sense, why it stayed intact. So.
Yeah, so definitely interesting. Something I wanted to mention, just because I thought it was pretty important. We actually had a comment here. Oh, it was Deborah. Nice. Yeah, so I thought it was cool that they actually found something that old. So then it got me kind of going down the history evidence kind of back, like train of thought. And so I was scrolling through TikTok and I ended up finding this video. It's of Tucker Carlson, and I couldn't figure out who the guy was, who he had on.
That guy, I don't know his
him?
name, but I know who he is. I think he's one of the guys that researches the what's it called? The burial cloth of Jesus.
The shroud of something.
Yeah, I think that's that guy, because Tony recently had someone on that's like their research partners or something. Him and the guy that was on Tony's show. But I mean, I think that's him. He looks like the same guy. So.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so he goes on to talk about the historical evidence of Jesus's crucifixion by many different authors, and I thought it was interesting enough to play. So we're going to play that now, and then we'll kind of discuss it and kind of talk about some other stuff.
It's the best established fact of the ancient world: Jesus' death by Roman crucifixion.
What does that mean?
Meaning that if we can't know that Jesus died by Roman crucifixion based on the historical record, we shouldn't believe anything from history at all. We have as much evidence for the crucifixion of Jesus that we have from Roman empires of the same, or the Roman emperors of the same period, which is remarkable.
Where does that? It is remarkable. Mm-hmm. Where does that evidence come from?
It comes out of all of the sources: Tacitus, Suetonius, Lucian. We have 11 different sources within, and I always use what the most critical scholars use, within 100 years of the time of Jesus, which his ministry begins in 26 to 27 AD. He's crucified, as we said, on that first Easter weekend, April 5. He's resurrected. He's crucified April 3rd, AD 30. We know the exact date, which is fascinating to know that. And then we have 11 sources. AD 30. Right. And so we have 11 sources that talk about this Jesus, this Christus. He's spelled in variant ways, but they're all talking about the same person, this Jesus Christ, who's crucified under the reign of Pontius Pilate at the hands of the Jews. And that's written in Tacitus, Suetonius, Josephus. There's some remarkable work coming out with Josephus recently, that Josephus, who we've already mentioned, the first century Roman historian, he would have had a firsthand knowledge. He would have had friends who were at the trial of Jesus, and he writes about that.
He was not a Christian.
No.
So of those 11, obviously you got the authors of the four Gospels who testified to this.
Saul, Paul. You have Paul.
Yep. Those are all followers of Jesus.
Right.
But you have non-Christians.
Absolutely. You have hostile witnesses who give voice to the historicity of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus.
Interesting.
Yeah, so super interesting.
It is.
Yeah, what are your thoughts right off the top? Because I have a couple things in that I could talk about with it.
Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense, because I know that the Romans took very detailed notes and documents on their court proceedings and all of that stuff. So I mean, it makes sense that they would have documentation of Jesus being crucified and everything leading up to and their arrest and all that would be documented. But yeah, I mean that's awesome. Also, the guy's name is Jeremiah Johnston.
Jeremiah Johnston,
the guy I was thinking about. Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't figure out what the guy's name was. Yeah. So what I found the most interesting was, I think it was Josephus. He was talking about had actual friends that were there and witnessed the trial of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's absolutely remarkable that we have starting to get some evidence about, like, from that aspect of things. So I just think it's awesome to have that kind of historical evidence, which, as he was saying in the video there's more historical evidence that Jesus was crucified than they have on some of the emperors at that same time, like more information, which is kind of like crazy to think about. It's when someone had said this to me. Now, I don't know the validity of it, but I heard a Christian say this, one of those like historical, kind of like this guy. He said there's more biblical evidence for Jesus's crucifixion than there was for like Alexander the Great, or like more like things written down that they know of, because a lot of the people that wrote about Alexander the Great were like well after his death. So I think that's kind of interesting. I think that what they were talking about, that or the disciples' deaths or whatever it was, they had more information about those things, which I think is interesting. Now, I don't know. That's just something I've heard, so I don't know like the validity of that, but I'll have to look more into that. But just something I thought was interesting, that there is some things from history that we just take, for what it is. And, there's people question a lot, like, question Jesus's life and Jesus's death, and obviously definitely the resurrection as well. When, we have just as much or more information about some of those things than other historical things that the people would never bat an eye at.
Yeah. I've heard that before too, that I can't remember who exactly they referenced, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of evidence that Jesus lived and he was a real person. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, for sure. And I just thought it kind of got me going down like the rabbit hole of these guys he kind of mentioned. So yeah, I did look. Go
One
ahead,
second, I
go
want
ahead.
to mention something about Josephus.
Yeah, go for it.
Very interesting. So there is a whole book, Josephus. He's a historian of the Jewish culture. And somewhere in there, he said he's talking about giants and Nephilim. And he said that in Jerusalem at the time he was writing that there were bones and a giant skull on display in Jerusalem, and the giant swords. So that's pretty cool to talk about. So
Yeah, that is no, I think that is fascinating. Because that's one of those things that kind of pops up in history. Back in like the 1800s, there was a lot of like different news articles about giant bones in America and stuff like that. And then the Smithsonian and stuff, like, they don't really have a lot of evidence for that. So which begs the question, what was happening back then? Were there a lot of people that were faking giant bones? Or is it something that they just didn't want out there? Or I don't know. It's just very strange. Because there is a numerous news articles about giant bones being found in different mounds and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of that stuff just kind of just gets brushed aside, and like a lot of historical people are like, oh no, that didn't happen, or like they didn't actually find giant bones and blah, blah,
so
blah.
there is this is going to be a deeper. I don't want to derail where you're going, but that there is a huge conspiracy about the Smithsonian destroying the evidence of giants. There's a lot of evidence that they destroyed the evidence. So yeah, but we'll come back to that on another episode. Let's focus on where you're going.
Yeah, no, for sure. But anyway, yeah. So I looked a couple of these guys up just to see what they said about Jesus. So I don't have just like a couple little things. So Tactius mentions Pontius Pilate, mentions the execution of Jesus and the existence of Christians shortly after that time period. Now, one thing that I was briefly looking at was like the Romans, and the reason why the Romans were so hell bent against Christians, because a lot of different people and different like people that the Romans took over, a lot of the time what they would do is they would just incorporate their gods into their gods already and give them Roman names, kind of like what they did with the Greek gods. They just renamed them and kind of, and so they would do this a lot. And so what's really weird about it is they didn't do that with Christianity. They almost were afraid of Christianity, or didn't, obviously didn't like it, because the persecution of Christians happens pretty shortly after. And the reasoning that I found online when I was doing some research on this was that the reason why they were so afraid of it is because of the resurrection aspect, that these Christians were worshiping a resurrected God. And that was their main issue and main like thing against Christianity. So yeah, just kind of fascinating, because as a lot of people know, the persecution of Christianity in the early church was very, like, the Romans were hell bent against Christianity and Christianity growing and stuff like that. So yeah, just kind of crazy. Like how many, because there's like no one knows for sure. We were kind of talking about this before. Like no one knows for sure how many Christians died, but the estimations that there could have been up to 5 million Christians that were martyred in about a 250-year period before Christianity gets accepted by the Roman Empire.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And Christianity grew very fast within a matter of like 100, 200 years.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which I think we could probably get into that now. So what I think is interesting, so I have a couple, so when 40 years after Jesus's death, or maybe actually, I'm sorry, 10 years after Jesus' death, because he dies in 30 AD. There's about only 1,000 Christians estimated to be around in the world. Now, it's obviously estimations. No one knows exactly how many, but that's only about 0.0017 of the population of the whole Roman Empire. And these are just Romans too, not, worldwide. But in a matter of, like, by year 150, there's 40,000 Christians. So already in that short amount of time period, a couple of generations of people, it's already starting to kind of explode. But the real biggest explosion happens between like the 150 and like 100 time period. So in a span of 50 years, it kind of almost quadruples and around about 217,000 Christians by the year 150 AD. And then by 350 AD, we're talking 33 million Christians.
Yeah.
So it grows very rapidly and very quickly within the Roman Empire. So much so that by the time around 350 comes around, that's the time of like Constantine, and it became such a strong religion that they couldn't persecute people anymore for it because there were so many of them that were Christians. So they ended up adopting Christianity as like the number one religion, and that's kind of like where the Holy Roman Empire comes from. That's where a lot of the Pope stuff will eventually come from, that stuff, and the fall of the Roman Empire and stuff like that. And so it's just fascinating, like over the time period of, 40 AD to 350, or I'm sorry, I keep on saying AD, like between like that, 400-year time span after Jesus' death. It's like Christianity just absolutely explodes.
Yeah, it does.
Amidst all of the persecution that's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because people are getting killed. People are, getting thrown into the Colosseum, getting fed to lions, getting dragged through streets, so it's pretty remarkable that even though all this persecution is happening, that people still believe it so much that they're willing to die for it.
Yeah.
Which I think says a lot about Christianity's validity as far as in the early church, because like if it wasn't real and it wasn't something that really transformed your life, then why would you die for it? You know what I mean? Especially like going against the Roman Empire like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the last thing you would want to do, especially if you're one of these people like the Jewish people or Hebrew people. Even if you're a Roman citizen, it doesn't stop you from getting persecuted.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean? Because they went after Paul. Paul was a Roman citizen, so they didn't crucify Paul, but, they still killed him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So even Roman citizens were also people that would be, kind of getting attacked and stuff like that. So yeah, I just find it so like kind of after looking at this stuff and looking at all this stuff, I just think it's so fascinating and so powerful to see how Christianity grew.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you got to think, why would you die for something you didn't believe in, or something that you not necessarily didn't believe in, something that you were making up. You know, that's the thing. Yeah. They were like, oh, they just made these stories up.
Yep.
Why would you die for that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. For what, to what end? They weren't getting rich from it. They weren't getting money from, like there wasn't like
total opposite. They were,
they were poor.
Beaten and stoned and, everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that goes to show you, especially the apostles themselves, and, to go through all the stuff that they went through, for something that wasn't true, and they believed that Jesus resurrected from the dead. So they believed it to be true because they saw it with their own eyes, so like it goes to show you like the validity of it. And it's kind of interesting because the sermon we're talking about, Pastor Frank was talking about this morning, was kind of similar talking about the early church in Acts, where it's the part in Acts where there's this group of like 7 men. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but they go and to try to pray for a demon-possessed person. And the demon speaks to them and says that, like, Jesus I know, Paul I've heard of, who are you?
Yeah.
And the whole point of the message this morning was like, to know Jesus, not just know him through a secondhand, relationship, or like being like, oh, I know him because my mom knows him, or, like, you know what I mean? To really having that real lasting, real relationship with the Lord. So that way that, he knows you and you know him, you know what I mean? Because relationship is, it's more than just going to church. It's more than just reading your Bible. It's more than just, it's getting in there, praying with them, talking with the Lord, having that communion with them, because that's what Jesus came to do, was to reconcile us back to the Father, through his death, because to atone for our sins and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it just it's interesting to think about, for sure. It's just when you kind of like put it in perspective and you think about these people's lives and what they went through to preserve the gospel and to keep on preaching the gospel amidst all of these things that are happening to them is pretty remarkable. Like, so I went down, and obviously a lot of these people, a lot of the apostles, like some of their deaths are kind of like, oh, they're not really sure. You know, it's kind of like rumor and stuff like that. But I mean, a lot of them are documented. So, like, as you were kind of mentioned before the show, Peter was, according to tradition, was crucified upside down because he didn't think he was worthy enough to die the same way Jesus died.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what a lot of people believe happened with him. Paul was beheaded in 67 AD. So, like I said, he was a Roman citizen, which is why he wasn't crucified, because Roman citizens weren't crucified because they looked at it. That's another thing I discovered recently after doing some research and stuff. But they were talking about, when I was reading, they were saying that the Romans, they wouldn't do that to their own people because they thought it was so awful. And so, yeah. So, like, that's why if you were a Roman citizen, you wouldn't get that same crucifixion death. But if you weren't a Roman citizen, then you could die by crucifixion. Which I think is interesting that they wouldn't kill their own people via crucifixion. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's interesting. Which is why they, looked at Jesus so weird, because here's a person that got crucified, and like they don't like that. Yeah. So really weird. But anyway, Andrew, did you know this, that Andrew was crucified on an X-shaped cross?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in Pardes, Greece. It was reported that he ended up preaching to the two guards that were with him right before his death, all the way to the end. So, and like, as we go through this list of these apostles, each one of them, minus John, which there's also a conspiracy theory about John as well. Let's correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't John the one that Jesus says, what is it? Because they ask him, who's going to live the longest or something like that. And he says something about John not dying. And he says something like, so what is it to you if if I keep him on this earth longer, or what, like something to that effect. I can't remember the exact verse, or the right terminology, but it was something to that effect. And he's the only apostle / disciple that actually doesn't, he gets exiled to the island where he writes Revelation. Definitely. He gets boiled in oil, I think once or twice, at least once, possibly twice, but doesn't die.
Yeah.
And so, which is kind of going into what Jesus said about him, that he wouldn't die. So I think that's a whole like conspiracy theory, because I don't even call it conspiracy theory. It's like something that people think about, because in Revelation where they talk about like the two witnesses that come back, or whatever, like a lot of people believe or speculate that like one of them's Elijah. One of them's could be John. There's all these people that like, oh, it's going to be Moses, or it's going to be this person, or it's going to be Enoch, because Enoch never died. You know what I mean? Because he was just brought up to heaven instead. So like, there's a lot of speculation on who those two people are going to be. And they might not even be them. They could just be random people from this time period or whatever. I just thought it was interesting that he's the only one that doesn't die and allegedly lives to an old age.
Yeah, it's very interesting. As John, he's called the beloved. He's like the favorite of all the disciples. So
yeah. So that's interesting. James, son of Zebedee, was beheaded by the sword in Jerusalem by order of King Herod, and he was the first one to get martyred. James, son of Alphaeus, stoned, then beaten to death by the club in Jerusalem. So like I said, all of these guys, Philip was crucified in the city of Theropolis, which is in Asia Minor, so he was going to Asia. Bartholomew, this is probably the worst one out of all of them. Bartholomew was flayed alive and then beheaded during missionary work in Armenia. Imagine that. That's probably the worst death of all.
Yeah.
Like being like cut open and then being beheaded after you've been all cut open, and like, yeah, dude, that's rough.
I know.
That's rough. Thomas, doubting Thomas, was stabbed with a spear while on a mission trip to India. Matthew was killed by a sword in Ethiopia. Simon the Zealot. Now this one is I think it was him that was kind of unknown, but a lot of people say he was either crucified or sawed in half
Oh my gosh.
in Persia,
Yeah.
and or some people said he died peacefully. So like that's one of the ones that like is kind of rumor and don't really have a lot of evidence or kind of know what happened to him, but a lot of people have speculated those things. And then just a couple more. Thaddeus was clubbed to death, and then they cut off his head in Beirut. Matthias, who was the replacement disciple, was stoned and beheaded for replacement for Judas. Mark, who wrote Mark, obviously, was he was the one that was dragged through the streets, and that happened in Alexandria. Luke, which is another writer of the Gospels, was hung in Greece. And this one we kind of mentioned, I'd mentioned to you off air, but James, the leader of the church in Jerusalem, was thrown from the temple pinnacle, survived. So then, because he survived, they just beat him to death instead.
Yeah, that's
dude, imagine that, like, thrown off the top of the temple. That's crazy.
I know.
And like last but not least, Jude was killed with arrows for refusing to renounce his faith, which is, I mean, a terrible, terrible way to go.
Yeah.
But the reason why I mention all these guys is because each one of these guys had numerous opportunities, especially before their death, to renounce that Jesus Christ was not Lord, that he was not God, and he wasn't resurrected, and all this stuff. And each one of these guys went to the grave, believing that with their whole heart.
Yeah.
And wouldn't say otherwise, and that's why these guys were killed.
Yeah.
Which is, if that's not like strong enough evidence for the Bible and Jesus being a real person and being crucified and being resurrected and being the way, like you said he was, then I don't know what is, because that's like, what is the benefit? If it's not real, what is the benefit for them giving their lives? Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, there's only one reason why you would do that. It's because you knew for a fact that Jesus, who said who he was, who he said he was.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? I think that's so powerful. So powerful. You know what I mean? Especially like the horrific way these guys went. Basically each one of these guys died in a crazy, crazy, messed up way.
Yeah, definitely. Also the evidence, I think, especially after Tony's episode about the Shroud of Turin, man, if you guys haven't seen that, go to watch the confessionals, the Shroud of Turin, watch it on YouTube, because it's worth seeing it, because they have an actual life-size replica of the shroud and they talk about it, and it's really awesome. But yeah, I mean, that the evidence with the shroud and the history of where it went, and how people like cared for it, and it's amazing, how it survived and stuff. But yeah, it's I especially now after watching that episode, I really think that is the actual burial cloth of Christ, because I mean, just with the blood is actually, you can tell that, the blood was, I can't remember the exact, there was like dead blood and living blood. Like the living blood is the blood that it would come out like while you're still alive. And then like dead blood is like it's mixed with like other fluids, and it happens after death. So I mean, it has around the head, where the crown would have sat, it has like living blood. And then like, I can't, you have to watch it. I'm messing it all up. But there's a lot of evidence in there, but it's incredible.
Yeah, that's cool. I've always found that the shroud very fascinating, and just something that's so interesting. Yeah, because I've seen so many little things on that, like different little documentaries and stuff, and it's very impressive, very, very impressive. So I think it's pretty cool, and it seems to be a legitimate piece of history, from what I understand.
Yeah, and plus with the image that's on it. And another thing that they were saying that it would take almost like a I don't want to say nuclear, but almost a that temperature to burn that into the cloth. And it's the thing about the image, it's not all the way through the cloth. It's on the outside layers, but the inside layer has no image on it, which is like impossible to fake. Because if you use paint or something, it would have soaked through the fabric. It's just, there's just so much amazing stuff that it you couldn't be made by man, it couldn't be replicated. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is cool. No, that's definitely awesome. Do you think the talking about biblical items that could or could not be real, do you think the Spear of Destiny is real?
I think the Spear of Destiny is real. And I think I want to say it's in Austria or something like that. I'm not sure if it's the real one, but they say it's the real one. But apparently Hitler had it in his possession, and then it was taken by the Allied forces and put somewhere. But yeah, I mean, that seems pretty legit to me. That it is an actual item. But there's a lot of items like that I think are floating around. I don't know. Like the Holy Grail was one thing that I'm kind of, I don't know if it's a real item or not, or if it's just folklore, because it's not is it talked about in the Bible? I don't think it is.
No.
So that's why I'm wondering if it's actually an actual piece of history that maybe, I know the Templars were looking for it. Apparently it caught the blood from Jesus's side, correct?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yep, something like that. Yeah. And yeah, that's all like legend and stuff
Yeah.
as far as I know. Yeah, because obviously the spear that punctured Jesus' side was real at some point, because there was the guard used some sort of spear to do it. So like it definitely was real at some point. Now, like you're saying, is it the one we have now, the actual one? It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Just because with that one, they haven't really, as far as I know, I haven't really seen a lot of testing done on that one. As far as like the shroud goes, the shroud they've tested a bunch of different times in a whole bunch of different ways. So there's a lot more credence to the shroud than the spear for sure. Just because there really isn't a lot of information on it. It's hard to know if like, is it the actual spear, or is it just a spear from the Roman time period of that same time period? It's very difficult to say for sure. And I think a lot of like churches and stuff back in those days, especially around the Crusade time period, they were all looking for relics that they could house in their church, so that way people would come, and people, like kind of like holy objects and stuff. It's like there's a church in Ethiopia that claims that they have the Ark of the Covenant there, and you know what I mean. So like there was definitely.
I think there's a few churches that claim to have.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more than one. Yeah. So there's a few out there that claim that they have the Ark of the Covenant, or like all kinds of weird sort of Christian relics.
There's one church I want to say maybe it is in Rome. I'm not sure, but they have like the skull of Peter or something like that.
Yeah. I think I've heard that before, or stuff like that, like bones, or all kinds of weird objects and stuff that churches claim were from this person or that person, or so it's hard to know, because like during that time period they were all trying to look for things that they could house in their church and make their church special, be like, oh, come to this church because we have we have Peter's bones. You know what I mean? So like, so that's part of it for sure. But I think all that stuff is interesting and fascinating in its own right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's all I have on that. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting, to kind of talk about this stuff, and, just think about the early church and all the things that those guys went through, to preserve the gospel into what it is today.
Yeah, definitely.
is
This-
just
I mean,
remarkable.
Yeah, but biblical archaeology is fascinating.
Mhm.
There's been so much stuff found, like the crossing of the Red Sea. There's like these chariot wheels, and I think Roman um, shields. I think, or not Roman. I mean Egyptian shields
Oh yeah, in the Red Sea. Yep.
underneath the Red Sea. Which
Yep.
why would it be there? Unless the oceans, unless they're trying to go through it and the oceans collapsed on them. And then also along the same trackway, if you follow that path from the Red Sea, there's a mountain that is black on top, and it's supposed to be where where God was the pillar of fire during the day, and
Oh yeah. Yep.
where Moses went up and supposedly got where it's the mountain is supposedly where Moses went up to get the Ten
Ten
Commandments.
Yep.
Because down the bottom there's all these Paleo Hebrew carvings of like cows and stuff like that, where they worship the false idols and stuff. There's a bunch of stuff like that around that area where they could have had an altar to these idols. And then there's also, they found a rock.
Yeah, the rock.
And it has a channel where water flowed. You can still see the erosion. I mean, there's just so much history that has been found that are, lines up with the Bible, so.
Yeah, especially recently. Just today I saw one about Jericho, because they found Jericho.
Mm.
And they were looking at the walls and stuff, because in the Bible, obviously, if you've read the story of Jericho, the walls of Jericho fell.
Mm-hmm.
And all the walls fell except for where what was her name? The prostitute that helped the men escape and stuff. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, me neither. But it was her, and because in the story it says that all the walls collapsed around except for where the part of the wall where she lived, because she lived on the wall, and that's how they were able to escape and stuff, right? And so the archaeologist was talking about how they were studying the walls of Jericho and how they fell and stuff like that. And they said that there was the one, Rahab. There's her name. Thanks, Mom. Yeah. And they were talking about the walls of Jericho, and that there was a one spot right where they think she probably lived, because it's the only spot of the wall that didn't collapse. Which is interesting. That they can find the archaeological evidence to back up that story all these years later and stuff like that. So yeah.
And then also the Sodom and Gomorrah site, they found balls of sulfur that is burned into the ground and stuff.
Yeah. So that's definitely fascinating. Did you hear about the conspiracy theory that they think that some people think Sodom and Gomorrah is where the Dead Sea was, or near the Dead Sea?
No.
And that's
why maybe it is near the Dead Sea. I mean, that would make sense because it's very in the Dead Sea, very
salty. Yeah. Also very salty and stuff like that. So, which is like that hurts. Like it was obviously it's just a theory, and just like I could say it more of a conspiracy theory type thing. But I thought that was an interesting thought, and to the reasoning why the Dead Sea is dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely interesting. A lot of those like archaeological finds that they're doing nowadays, especially like when we started the show with like Moses and stuff like that. I think all that stuff's fascinating and stuff like that. So,
and one of the real fascinating ones is Noah's Ark. Like they found like that ship in the mountain, not on Mount Ararat, but in the mountain valley of Ararat. There's a boat-shaped object, and they actually went in and scanned it, and it definitely is a boat. And I believe it's Noah's Ark. They found like droge stones, and apparently there's a settlement, like an ancient settlement nearby, with some carvings or something on the wall of like a family, which matches up with the story of Noah's Ark. And then, even I think, is it Turkey, or where's Ararat?
It's somewhere over there, though. It might be.
I want to say Turkey. It may not be. But the government there actually made a visitor center and called it the Noah's Ark Visitor Center. Is it Turkey? Turkish?
Yep, northeast Turkey.
Okay, yeah. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's called the Durupinnar site. The geological formation known as the Dupurnar site, located near the mountain, has been claimed by some to be the petrified remains of the Ark.
But it's
Yep.
it's been proven. I mean, they've scanned it and see chambers in it and all that, and they've even found like petrified wood, timbers, and I want to say like ancient nails and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure in the future we'll probably talk about a lot more historical things and a lot of archaeological stuff that's been popping up, because I feel like every few months there's something new out there, like kind of like that Moses story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's cool and definitely something we'll be talking about in the future for sure.
Definitely, man.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that whole Noah's Ark thing. One thing that I don't know if you know Ron Wyatt, but
We talked about him before.
I think I don't know if we do a whole series on his findings, because if not, we need to do a show on that because it's very interesting.
No, for sure. I'm trying to think. I think we definitely talked about him before. He's the same guy that thinks he found the Ark of the Covenant underneath the skull of the skull where Jesus was crucified and stuff, right?
The crucifixion site, which is Golgotha, I think.
Golgotha. Yep. That is correct. Yep.
There's Jeremiah's grotto is under there too. So there's a lot of stuff right there. Yeah. We can get into that in another show, but yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, he's an interesting guy and claimed to have found some interesting stuff. So definitely worth the discussion at the very least, because I think it's interesting. It's cool.
It is. Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode as far as all the things that we came to talk about. But good to have you back, after a long hiatus, finally back in the saddle. So it's good to have you back. I think there's only bigger and brighter things in the future for this show.
Oh yeah. I'm so happy to be back. Like I said, I wouldn't have missed except, being out of town. I was sick. I had a ridiculous headache. I like fell asleep and I woke up and I text Phil. I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm not gonna be able to make it." It was like an hour, I think, before the show, and it was. I mean, gosh, thanks to you, because you kept going on the weeks I wasn't here, so that was really awesome. So
yeah, no worries. Anytime, stuff happens, so it is what it is. But
although I did come on, like, because I didn't know you did the show, and I was like, "Hey, we're going to record this week." You're like, "I already did it last week." Because we do every other week. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So that happened twice.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it is what it is. I was like, I just wanted to try to stay consistent, and I already had stuff to talk about. So I was like, before we go, since he didn't have a chance to talk about it, what do you think about Forrest Frank and the whole back injury and all that stuff?
Oh my gosh, dude. I think that is awesome.
Yeah.
I watched his video and it was, because I watched the video of him falling on the skateboard. I was like, oh my gosh, that's bad. And then, like before his recovery, I watched a video. There was which is really cool, which goes to show how Forrest Frank, how much of a good guy he is. There was like a Christian summer camp, and they wrote a song that they said this, they're writing a song that sounded like Forrest Frank.
Yeah, I saw that
video of like
the Lemonade song.
Yeah, Lemonade. It's like, you got to do, something like this. And then Forrest Frank took that song and actually made it into a full song and gave them credit for it. I thought that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was very cool. Yeah, and he did that when his back was hurt too.
Yeah.
He made 2 songs when his back was hurt. One about his back being hurt, and then the Lemonade song. So yeah. And they're both great songs too, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And then after I watched the Lemonade video, I think it was the next day after I saw that, he was talking about how didn't he just get out of bed and he it was like, whoa, hold on, I can move, you know.
Yeah, I
It's very
think it was
miraculous.
one of those situations where he started doing stuff, like started, doing his day and stuff, didn't even think about it. And
Yeah,
then by the time he realized it, he's like, oh, my back doesn't hurt.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, because that's what I talked about last episode
yeah,
was the rise of Christian music, with him and Brandon Lake as well. Both of those guys are really crushing it right now. But especially Forrest Frank, he's like, he's doing things in the Christian music scene that hasn't been done in a long time.
yeah,
Which I think is a testament to him, and the way God's using him and stuff like that, because he's definitely connecting with the younger generation for sure.
definitely. One thing I think we should talk about, since you did one on Christian music, like the new stuff, we should talk about the downfall of the music we grew up on,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of stuff that came out about a lot of artists that they pretty much were lying the whole time and just faking
Yeah.
it, you know, and that
Yeah.
that just bothers me really bad. Some of the Christian heavy metal bands that
Oh, no kidding.
I really liked, or were like, oh, we were never Christian, we were just using this to make money or whatever, which
Oh,
is just
really?
makes me sick.
Yeah, that stinks. That really does stink. Yeah, especially when you like grew up on it and you really like it a lot and stuff like that. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Laura said, "Oh, tell me more." I would love to, but we're at the end of the show. That's going to be a whole show about that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely do that soon for sure.
And everyone probably knows the stuff about the Newsboys now, but I mean that's
Mhm.
that's really bad stuff. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, luckily for me, like I wasn't a huge DC Talk fan or Newsboys fan personally. So, it doesn't, I mean, obviously it still stinks regardless, but it's definitely like you were saying with like your heavy metal bands that you really like that were like supposedly Christian and then they're not. Like that's heartbreaking just because like you spent so much time and energy into liking this band and stuff like that, so when you have that like connection with them, like I think it hurts even that much more.
yeah, I mean, whenever you listen, I mean, God can use music no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
but to think that the emotions behind it was a lie, whenever you worship to that music, it meant something to you, you felt
Yeah. Yeah.
their words, how true they felt, and then to find out it was just all a lie, you were praising to their lies essentially,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
it just one more thing before I go. This kind of ties in with the whole thing. Okay. So I have a friend and I need your advice on this, okay? He is one of the reasons why, because I was kind of backslidden in my teenage years, he is one of the reasons why I came back to the church. And he's gone through a lot in his life recently, and he's a musician also. That's what kind of reminded me of this. And I saw on his Facebook the other day that he said that he's a spiritual coach. And it's not, he never mentions God, and it's like very new agey, and it just really has me worried. And there's a lot of stuff happening in his life right now, so I didn't really want to address it right now with him, because everything. But I mean, I really feel like I need to talk to him.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think understandably you're obviously worried and concerned for your friend just because of that connection you have with him and what he did for you. You want to like kind of return that favor to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's definitely a sign of a good friend and something that you should definitely do. But what I would do is I'd probably pray about it first, be like, Lord, give me the words, give me the timing, to know what to say, to know what to do, and then kind of go from there, and then let the Lord kind of lead you in that whole thing. Because, you don't want to go in too hot, or you don't want to, turn him off or kind of harm the relationship or anything like that. But you do want to kind of, look out for him and be like, hey man, I love you. I'm here for you. And, and the Lord's here for you too, and so, especially if he's going through a lot of different things too, this could just be a time period in his life where he's just kind of looking for answers and, all the wrong places and stuff like that,
But he was always the like, I don't know, just very like leader of our like kind of Christian group,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's hard to see someone like that.
Very,
yeah.
Because it says, I'll read off his little flyer he made for what he's doing. It says, spiritual guide and professional musician. And then it says down here, with a grounded, compassionate approach, he weaves music, meditation, and spiritual insight together to support others in aligning with their soul's purpose. So I don't know. I mean, that's like putting more on like the soul. I don't know. And this wordage right here is what gets me because it's very, very new age. It says sharing songs and insight from spirit. That's what they all, they don't say God, they say from spirit, like they're talking to the spirits. That's very concerning for me.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just very worried about him. So I mean, without telling you his name, if everyone out there, just keep my friend in your prayers, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on with his family. He's been through a rough patch, and I think he just needs guidance, and God knows, just say Jason's friend. God, he's all knowing. He knows what you're talking about. So,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. He knows before you even ask. So yeah, no, for sure. And I'll definitely keep in my prayers for sure. And you in my prayers, to have the wisdom to know what to say and do.
Yeah. Cause I didn't know what to say to him, how to approach it.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely a difficult
friends
situation.
That, in our circle. And I was like, hey, have you seen this on such and such Instagram page? And they're like, yeah, he's doing good. And they're like, have you read it though? And then it was like, oh, because they just scrolling through, you won't notice it, It seemed just like a music teacher or something, but then when you see it's like meditative and, soul aligning or whatever, and that's just not really, it's very new age words,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. And something, well, I'll definitely keep in my prayers for sure. Cause that's definitely strange for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
All right. Yeah, that's weird. Because there is Christian meditation for sure.
Yeah, there is.
The difference between Christian meditation and Eastern meditation is like a lot of Eastern stuff, or the other kind of meditation is all about emptying yourself and, emptying yourself out and that kind of stuff. Whereas Christian meditation is the opposite. It's the infilling of, with the Holy Spirit and stuff like that. Yeah. And so, just because you use the word meditation doesn't mean it's always that kind of meditation, but with the other terminology. Yeah.
So I got one more thing to share. I think you guys will enjoy this. So I have the other podcast, AFK Discussions. I was going to interview. Well, I did interview a lady. At first, I pushed it back because I didn't have a good feeling. Right? I was like, maybe I shouldn't talk to this person. But then I was like, well, maybe I should talk to them. Maybe because they reached out to me and I was like, hey, do you want to come on the show? And they're a medium, psychic medium. And I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't talk to them because I don't want to, be involved with that. So I canceled the episode. And then I said, well, maybe there's a reason I'm supposed to talk to them. So I messaged her back and I said, well, I'm a Christian and I come at this, all the supernatural stuff from a Christian point of view. And she said, well, I used to be a Christian, so I'd be happy to, still talk to you. I was like, well, yeah, I wouldn't, I don't plan on, I'm not going to try to convert you or anything, but, I think we could have a good discussion, from, your side and my point of view, sharing what each point of view is like, just having a discussion without being mean to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like what usually happens is a lot of yelling and gnashing of teeth whenever Christians talk to people who are into the, I guess, occult practices.
Mm-hmm.
Which occult means hidden. So it's not like I'm talking about, they're worshiping devils, which, may or may not, she may not have been. We'll get into that in a second. So we're talking and she said, that she was a Christian. We kind of went through that a little bit. She used to be a Christian. And so I said, so do you mind if I ask you why you left the church? Like what happened? And she told me her story on air. And then she told me, like it was pretty much church hurt. Someone hurt her in the church, and which made her, back away. And I was like, I just want to say I'm sorry for that. Christians can be really mean sometimes and approach things badly, and I just want to apologize for the way you were treated. And then all of a sudden it just went dead. Like we got cut off. And we were using Riverside, and Riverside backs up everything, it like if you record, it keeps the recording on the cloud. So, it's always backed up. You can download it. So we got reconnected, and, I was telling her, Riverside backs up everything. So we won't have to restart. We'll just go from here. So we continued recording, which happened with Tommy, by the way. It got cut off numerous times, and it still kept the recording. So we kept going with the recording, and then she was talking about her spirit guides and stuff. And I was asking her, I said, in the book of Daniel, Daniel's praying, and it takes like, wasn't it a week? I think it's a week, right? He prays for
the Prince of Persia.
Yeah, then, I was like, there's this spiritual battle going on because, the angel of the Lord was delayed because, he was fighting the Prince of Persia. And so I started asking her about, I was like, do you think the spiritual battle is still going on? What do you think from your perspective? Because, you're kind of coming from the opposite end of me. And she was like, oh, yeah, this is definitely a thing. There is definitely spiritual warfare going on. She called them gods. So she worships some sort of pantheon of gods, sort of. And she said, my God, tell me, there's this stuff happening all the time. So it is real. And I was like, this is fascinating. I'm actually talking to somebody from the other side who sees like a spiritual battle similar to us, seeing a spiritual battle, from angelic beings, and her quote unquote gods are in this battle also. And I was like, this is going to be awesome, dude. I'm going to get some good info on this. Boom. Soon as we started talking about that, dead. Just everything cut out. And we couldn't get reconnected at all. It was like something does not want me to talk to her about this, And so she texts me. It's like, we couldn't reconnect. So I was like, okay, we'll try to do it another day. I'll see if we can get back on and finish the episode, because I think we're going somewhere really good. And I went back to Riverside because I was going to listen to the stuff that we had recorded. It's all gone. My stuff's there. Anything with her on it is gone.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Is gone. Something did not like the fact that I was probing, like saying I'm sorry, for, the way she was treated. Like I was, touching those points that may have never been forgiven, or maybe she has never heard a Christian say, I'm sorry for the way you're treated. I think I was hitting something there that they didn't like, and they just shut it all down.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
It was wild. Yeah.
And that's the only time that's ever happened where you've lost stuff like that, right?
Yeah, because Tommy and I, we had some issues when we were talking about the Fae, and we got cut off 4 or 5 times. And that was another weird episode because it's still recorded when we couldn't hear each other, but it was still recording. And we didn't think each other was there, but it was bizarre. We don't know what happened there, but this definitely felt like I was engaging in some spiritual warfare, and they didn't like it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Are you going to try to reconnect with her again or no?
I may, I don't know. I don't know. I'm on the fence because I mean,
Because you already had the conversation once.
yeah, but I mean, I'm scared to poke the bear too much. I know I'm protected, but also we know what happens when you poke the bear and they, you know, try to come after you, Phil. You know, we've been there. So that's the only thing I'm kind of worried about, you know. I don't want to, but I mean, I know God has our back, but also, you know, what's it called?
Spiritual warfare?
No, not spiritual warfare. Spiritual oppression is a real thing, and they can hit you with that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of, I don't want to deal with that crap again. So I don't know. I mean, I may try to reconnect and see what happens, but yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. Well, I'll keep that in prayer too.
Yeah.
You know, because yeah, that's interesting. Makes you wonder.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I really liked where it was going, and you know that I was engaging in war with, you know, it felt like warfare because, you know, like something didn't want us to talk. But yeah, it was, yeah. And another thing, like the people that, because I went and looked, she has a podcast also, and she interviewed people, and they're very seems anti-Christian, you know. And that's another reason why I wanted to get on there and just, you know, show a little love. You know, because I mean, most of them probably all they get is hate. And, you know, I mean, a little of Jesus love goes a long way when you've never experienced it. So, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What's your feelings, Phil? I get this look. You're like, I don't know. You're thinking. You're processing. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I definitely am thinking about it. Yeah, it makes you. I think at the very least, you know, if I would definitely pray about it and see what the Lord, you know, have the Lord give you direction on what He thinks you should do, because maybe that's what the Lord wanted. He wanted you to just, you know, have that conversation with her and say sorry, and maybe that's a seed planted in her heart. You know, that'll help change the way she thinks, or, you know, maybe it's the beginning of some new way of life for her, you know, and turning away from these things and that kind of stuff. And maybe that's what the Lord wanted to happen. And now that's happened, that's all that He wanted out of it. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, reaching people and stuff. And I think it's commendable for you to reach out to her and you know, have that conversation and show God's love and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, without sacrificing your beliefs or your, you know, scruples about it and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's definitely interesting, and something that if I were you, I would definitely pray about it and just, you know, see where the Lord directs you, what direction the Lord takes you in, you know, because maybe He does want you to talk to her again. Maybe He doesn't. Maybe she'll reach out to you again. I don't know. And then again, it's always tough just from a recording aspect. It's strange to try to do a podcast over again that you've already had conversations, like the same questions and stuff, because sometimes you don't get the same results. Even if you're trying to get the same answers out of, you know, like it's never the same, no matter how hard you try. You know, so, but yeah, I think it's definitely interesting and something that I would definitely meditate about and, you know, bring it to the Lord and be like, you know, I need your direction on this. You know, what should I do?
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, sort of what I did the first time around, because I was like, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this podcast.
Yeah.
And then it was like I reached out and was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know up front, I'm a Christian, and you know, I'm going to come at it from a Christian point of view. If you still want to do the interview, we can." So, and also another thing in that, I told a little bit about my story. She was asking, because I said, you know, I used to do, because she does also investigations, like ghost stuff, you know, right?
Yep.
And I told her a little bit about my story, and I was like, it felt like, you know, something followed me back from Elkmont, right? And I said, before you say anything, I just want to let you know, I don't want you to tell me anything. I don't want to know anything. If you think you have some spiritual or psychic impressions that you see from me, I don't want to know anything. Don't tell me anything, because I don't want to know, because I believe that, you know, as a Christian, we don't want to know from, you know, so it tells you not to ask questions of like soothsayers and witches and stuff like that, you know. So I was like, I don't want to know. Don't tell me, because I'm not supposed to engage in that. So I told her up front that, you know, do not read me, because I don't want to know. So she was like, okay, I respect that. So
Yeah, because that's the last thing you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, like, yeah, because you just never know, you know, what you're hearing is, you know, truth or not, or just what they want you to know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, not her specifically. I'm saying like her, whatever her spirit guides are.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because there's a lot of manipulation in that kind of stuff. You know, because they could want you to open up. You know, or
I mean, if she said something to me like, you know, because this is the thing, you know how they do. Oh, I see a woman. I feel like it's a mother, you know, like that. And then you're like, oh, is that my mom? You know, because that triggers, because my mom, you know, has passed away.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, I don't want to be tempted to even engage in that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. No, and I think that's the right choice for sure. It's just just like not a door you want to, or pathway you want to go down.
Because I mean, no matter what, we're human, right?
Yeah.
And if, you know, like if you had a loved one that had passed away, someone that you were really strongly connected to, I mean, what wouldn't you give to talk to them again? You know, I mean, that temptation is so strong that, you know, gosh. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little choked up because I just miss my mom so much, and
yeah,
you know, the last 2 years of her life, she really she was suffering from dementia and stuff, so she really wasn't coherent and, you know, couldn't communicate. So I mean, what I wouldn't give to, you know, talk to my mom one more time, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's always tough, but you know, at least you'll see her on the other side of glory.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, and you know, in her best form as well. You know what I mean? So like, that's always something to, you know, kind of hold on to for sure.
Yeah,
you know, which is always great. Same thing with me and my dad and stuff. You know, because I lost my dad back in 21, so you know, it's always tough when you lose like close family members like that. You know, because like, you know, you want to see him, you want to talk to him, you want to, you know, and it's just it's something that, you know, it's a part of life, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't, but it is. You know, and you know, you just gotta hold on to the, you know, to that hope at, you know, at the end of all this, you know, we'll be with each other in glory, and you know, they won't be suffering anymore, and you know, you'll be able to talk to them and have all those conversations, and not only just like your relatives and stuff, but like other people, you know, like I guess we can close it out on more of a positive note if you want.
Yeah.
Which biblical character would you most like to talk to in heaven?
Gosh,
in the new heaven? Job. Yeah.
I love Job's the story of Job and all the stuff we went through, and just how, you know, gosh, how did you stay so faithful when all your whole life was going to crap, you know? How, I mean, that is anyone. I mean, I don't know if I could maintain and like still say worship God and like throughout all the stuff that he was going through, he still stayed focused on God. I mean, he lost his whole family, his
Yeah.
wife, his house,
Yeah.
everything. He had 3 friends who were like, "Look, dude, this is your fault. You know, what did you do to piss off God?" Sorry, I shouldn't have said that P word, but this one. But yeah, what did you do? And there, he's like, you know, God is good. God is good, and you know, I just it's so just such a good story, because in the end, God gives everything back, and that's so awesome, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But
No,
also the
that's a
book is
great one.
so weird too, because you think God's like, hey Satan, look at my boy Job. No matter what you do to him, he's still going to worship me. The devil's like, okay, you think so? Take off your hedge of protection. Let me have him. And he's like, okay, go ahead. There you go. That's such a crazy story to me too, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, that the devil and God still have conversations.
Yeah. And, you know, and the fact that, you know, God took his hedge of protection down and let Satan do your worst, you know, see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's like crazy to me.
Yeah,
But,
for
I mean,
sure.
yeah. That's something that our human minds can't fathom, the will of God, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, for sure. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think for me it would be Enoch, just because I would want to know, because it says in the Bible that Enoch walked and talked with God,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would just ask him how he did that. You know, especially in the Old Testament. You know, how did he walk and talk with God? Because I would like to walk and talk with God.
Yeah.
I just don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that's the number one question I would ask him. And he's such an interesting character too, because you know, yeah, obviously you have the Book of Enoch and all that stuff as well. And yeah, just an interesting figure, just because, like I said earlier in the episode, he's also one of the only people not to die. You know, it just said that God took him one day.
Yeah.
That's how it describes. So like that doesn't sound like he dies. That sounds like he disappeared.
Yeah.
And just he was with God now instead of, yeah. So I think that's remarkable and
Definitely.
interesting, you know. So yeah, that's who I would most like to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Wow, we ended up going a lot longer than I thought we were gonna go.
That was my bad. I hadn't been
No,
on
no,
here for
I
weeks,
think
so
it's
I
good.
had stories to tell.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I think it was good for sure. You know, and a good way to end the back half of the episode. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be back a week after next, possibly with a guest. I'm not sure yet. I'll try to line a guest up for us so that way we can
Yes.
have a
So
guest. You said you have a guest coming on
I have
soon.
a guest. I need to talk to him. He's on Rumble. So if all my Rumble peeps out there, check out DLD After Dark. He's a gun tuber, so he makes gun content, and he also makes definition knives. Some of the best knives I've ever used. I got one right here. I mean, it is like seriously the best knife ever. I mean, it's like so smooth, so awesome. I can't get it on the camera, but yeah. So the logo right there, DK. So definition knives, check them out. Shameless plug.
Mhm.
But their knives are very, very reasonably priced. So I don't know exactly how much they were. He gave me a deal on mine because he's part of the Fat Tat crew. And so, you know, I got a deal. So anyways,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so we have that to look forward to. I'm sure some other guests and stuff, and many more topics to follow in the next couple months. I'll be getting a new studio in a little bit because I'm going to
Nice.
be moving out of my place right now. So we have that to look forward to, a new studio space. So that'll be interesting to do all that and move all this stuff over. Hopefully that's a smooth transition.
Yeah.
Anytime you have to move, it's always tough. So,
Yeah. Oh, I got
um,
a Godzilla skateboard right there. I don't know if you can see it.
oh, nice.
I would keep looking up and I see this mouth open. And I'm like, I keep forgetting Godzilla's back there.
Well, it's good to know that it's a skateboard and not
Yeah.
an actual monster.
Yeah, I know. You never know.
Yeah,
You're right.
that's true. Awesome. Well, it's great talking to you. Another great week on Image of the Invisible. Make sure you guys follow us on all the socials, support Fat Tack, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
Always remember love that I gave.